we're living through a moment where uncertainty isn't lurking in the shadows. It's here in broad daylight. Our government just shut down as of 12:01 a.m. on October 1st as Congress failed to pass a funding bill for the coming fiscal year. So what that means is public agencies, many services, and hundreds of thousands of federal employees are affected. Whether you're ready now or just starting your journey, we're here to walk with you every step of the way. Hi everyone, my name is Des Losberg and welcome back to the Purchase Path podcast. I'm your host, and today we're tackling something that's very real for many right now, and that's job insecurity. And what today's episode is going to be about is how to make meaningful decisions despite that uncertainty. Now, this is not theory. We're living through a moment where uncertainty isn't lurking in the shadows. It's here in broad daylight. Our government just shut down as of 12:01 a.m. on October 1st as Congress failed to pass a funding bill for the coming fiscal year. So what that means is public agencies, many services, and hundreds of thousands of federal employees are affected. Roughly 900,000 people, almost 1 million people are potentially going to be furloughed. And while another 700,000 will continue to work without pay. So some agencies are already preparing for permanent layoffs rather than the traditional furlough. So what does that mean for you? What that means is you might be thinking this kind of shock is only for people in DC. I gotta tell you, think again. The government shutdowns ripple outward. They reduce consumer confidence. They tighten public spending. They delay contracts. They stall project funding. And of course, there's no tax revenue to be spread out amongst the municipalities. It's an accelerator to insecurity. So in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through why job insecurity shouldn't be the dictator of your decision, specifically on your decision to buy a home. We're gonna talk about how shutdowns amplify the pressure and tactics you can use so you can stay in the driver's seat as a buyer, even when the ground is shaky. So let's get right into it. All right, so let's take a moment. Let's zoom out. Even before the shutdowns, the signals were flashing. Layoffs across major corporations were happening. Tech, retail, real estate, they've dominated the headlines all this year. Check out Reuters, it's all over there. Consumer confidence is sagging as people lose faith in job stability. That's from the Business Insider. And to add to the shutdown, the US economy could lose $15 billion in GDP per week. That's not per month, that's not per year, that is per week. So while this drags on, according to the White House memo, many expect further federal layoffs if they don't figure out this budget and pass something soon. So in some agencies, only a small fraction of employees are exempted. These are called accepted roles, meaning the rest are furloughed. They're either going home without pay or they're working without pay at all. And the further twist is in past shutdowns, furloughs were temporary and back pay was guaranteed, but not this time. This time, agencies have been told to prepare for permanent cuts and a reduction in force if a budget is not passed. So the shutdown amplifies the baseline insecurity into a bigger event. And for many, it's not abstract, it's immediate and it's here now. So let's go into how this uncertainty hijacks your decision-making and most buyers' decision-making. Let's get into the psychology of it. That pressure warps thinking and behavior. Fear creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates complacency, and people simply do not want to make decisions if they don't have that certainty. So you, as a buyer or someone who is fearful of the furloughs or what that means for the economy, I'm going to take a defensive position. And under that threat, I'm going to go into a ultra conservative mode. And that means I'm going to tighten up my spending. I'm not going to do much with it. And in the context of job insecurity, that looks like I'm not going to maybe make that big purchase. I might not invest in new skills. I might accept bad offers, or I'll be putting off transitions or looking for promotions. I just don't know. I'm going to put my head in the sand and wait it out. That's what most people would do. It creates a scarcity mindset, and it just is a lot of pressure and stress for your cognitive load. So when every dollar counts, every move feels risky, and your mental bandwidth, it just shrinks, and you default to a simpler short-term fix instead of long-term vision moves. You're going to have negativity bias. You're going to think about worst case scenarios. You're going to deplete your resources, and you're just going to sit still. You're going to freeze and avoid any big move. But what I'm going to share with you is maybe, just maybe, I would encourage you to go against that normal tendency. Now you might be saying, yeah, but Des, that's easy for you to say. You're the one selling homes at Ascension Homes. I get it. You're trying to convince me to buy homes when at a time it's uncertain. But let me explain why freezing is a greater risk for you. I want to challenge your intuition that doing nothing is safer. Let's talk about the opportunity costs. Every day you delay, you're going to lose time, and skills, you're going to stagnate, momentum fades, potential windows close, and you're going to lose your bargaining power. If you don't act until the last minute, your choices, they just go away. You're shrinking, and you're negotiating from desperation and not strength. You also risk regret and loss of autonomy or free agency. And looking back, what you'll do in the future is you might look back at this moment and say, gosh, I could have taken advantage of that opportunity. There were less buyers in the market. Maybe I could have gone out and negotiated a better deal and been less competitive. Right now, because of this uncertainty, a lot of buyers left the market and they're sitting on the sideline. So that gives you more negotiating power. Here's another thing to consider. You are going to need a place to stay no matter what. If you're going to pay rent or you're going to pay a mortgage, whether or not there's uncertainty in the market, you're going to do that anyway. There is always a housing cost. So let's talk about framework to make that decision. Just acknowledge that yes, there's risk. Yes, I'm not sure right now, but if I'm able to get myself the right deal and my payment is manageable and the same that it's paying in rent anyway, what risk do you really have? It's a housing expense that you are already going to make. Set some guidelines for you. Create a baseline. So you know if you dip below that threshold, that's when you absolutely cannot make any moves whatsoever. And that's typically when you're worried about paying rent. And that is understandable. But more than likely, if you are at your employer for any length of time, that is not likely going to happen. If anything, you're going to be stable, you're going to have your base income, and potentially it could increase. Look at your budget, see what you can afford, and now if you have the credit and you have the income to qualify, it is a great time to take advantage of your competitive advantage in the marketplace. You know, a famous quote says that Warren Buffett would always say, when there's blood in the streets, get greedy. No, well, he didn't actually say that. What he said is when other people are fearful, become greedy. And when other people are greedy, become fearful. So what that essentially means is go against the public trend and the psychology behind what most people do. And so for you, if most people are sitting on the sideline, waiting it out, that gives you an opportunity as a savvy buyer. The other thing you got to think about is look at the historical context here. The reality with the government shutdown is that it is a political negotiation between the right and the left. Now, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. The reality is they do want the government to shut down so they can gain negotiating power. Once the government ramps back up, that's when everything changes and everyone gets that certainty and everyone crashes back down into the market. So that home that might be sitting, that opportunity that you might be looking at might not be there because everyone else is crashing back into the market. So you as a buyer with that little bit of uncertainty, if you know what your balance is, you know what your debt to income ratio is, you know what your job security is, you can take advantage of that marketplace. And one last tip I'm going to give for you, the first-time home buyer, you, the working class family, you, the veteran, I got to ask you a question. What do you think most real estate investors or most real estate developers are doing right now? That's right. They're going out and they're buying. They're taking advantage of this marketplace. They are still making deals. They don't sit on the sideline. They take advantage and they strike when the opportunity is right. So you as a first-time home buyer, you as a second-time home buyer, or working class family, whatever the case may be, I would probably follow what the successful folks are doing. Take advantage of that because you can build your net worth, you can build your family's legacy, and you can get in that home that you've always wanted, especially in a buyer's market like it is right now. So remember, if you're always looking for some guidance, reach out to us. That's AZCENSION, homes.com. Check us out. We'll get you connected and we will cater a program just for you with our homes to make sure you can get in there. And we want to make sure that you are going to be able to afford it despite uncertain times. So again, reach out, we'll get connected, we'll show you the inventory that we have available, and we'll make sure that you're put in the right home. So see you next time on the next episode. When times are uncertain, that is the time to lean in and take advantage so you can get the home of your dreams. The cost of living has pushed too many families out of the communities they love. They work hard, but still can't afford enough space. Rent keeps rising and home ownership feels like a distant dream. That's where the purchase path comes in. I'm Des Losberg, founder of Ascension Homes, and I retired after 22 years in the lending industry after I kept seeing the same pattern. Good, hardworking families getting locked out, not because they didn't deserve a home, but because no one ever showed them a real way forward. This podcast exists to change that. Here you'll learn about real paths to ownership like zero down financing options, down payment grants, lease to own programs, and financing options that are actually designed for families like yours. This isn't about fluffy dreams or get rich quick advice. It's about clarity, options, strategy. So whether you're relocating, renting, or just tired of waiting, you'll get the tools and the truth to move forward one step at a time. Follow the purchase path now on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen and start your journey with Ascension Homes. Your path, your purchase, your time.